Hi guys, Martin from Belief. It's the 1st of May 2026. The time is 10 past 4 in the afternoon. Having an interesting day, bouncing around, seeing a lot of brokers. I'll be back in the office in about an hour and a half. So, purpose of this video is to talk about Facebook reviews. More specifically, the reviews that I do of Facebook ads on Facebook. I only upload them to about 2 or 3 groups. Why do I do them? The short answer, education. Alright, tell you what's wrong so you don't go out and make the same mistake. Or mistakes. You're exposed to enough of these things and you start to develop an appreciation and understanding, not just of your compliance obligations, but certainly what might be required in order to get conversions. Now, the long answer, and the long answer is a big one, and it's a real big one, but it needs, I didn't think I needed to record this video, but certainly I do. Over the last couple of days, I've had cause or reason to record this. Now, where do I start? Okay, we've got about 15 people on our rescue list at the moment, which is a bunch of low-performing companies. Last year we offered $1 million if we couldn't triple the returns of these people. Now it's just a flat $250,000. So if you come to us from Broker Grow, who's probably the 3rd worst performing in the industry, Biz Leads and Marketing Transformers and JSP and Stampede and Sunbear and all those sorts of people that claim to sort of provide some sort of positioned ads to the industry and are doing so much of the time without an understanding, and that includes the 2 coaches or the 3 coaches that are doing the same. In all of those cases, those ads are non-compliant, 100% non-compliant. There's not been a single ad I have seen which meets all your compliance obligations, and it's unacceptable. Now, big picture view is, and by the way, for each of those people on a rescue list, there's probably 1,000 digital companies that would be compliant if they had to, because they take the necessary steps, and they would certainly produce ads that would return more. I think it'd be difficult, even if you created the ad while you're on the toilet. I think it would be difficult to get a lesser result than it is with those people and the perceived help. I can't begin to tell you how extraordinarily bad the experience is from a professional perspective. 2.5 decades of doing this, and it's like if I was teaching someone nuclear science, their experience kind of is the equivalent of teaching somebody the first letter of the alphabet. It kind of is a system without purpose. There's no functionality to it, certainly no creativity, and the ads don't serve a purpose, and they're all copycat, they're duplicates, they're identified as Facebook by such. I can go on forever and ever and ever regarding that stuff. Part of the reason I review this stuff is to expose that level of incompetence that you see from within the industry. If I educate you again on what everybody else is doing, what everyone else is doing wrong, you won't go out and make those same stupid mistakes. You won't actively seek to alienate the audience that you seek to attract, which is what a lot of these people are doing by way of their things. Now, I apologize, this video is going to go for a bit. Now, I think it's important to tell you a story. Now, I did mention the name of one company before, who was responsible for an ad that got a guy, well, this has happened more often than not recently. It's one of those things the industry still is not talking about, and that is lenders that will de-accredit you. So they'll remove your accreditation on the basis of the way in which their brand is represented online, through your advertising, through your promotion, through your whatever, through your website. And they will actively remove your accreditation, which is a horrible move because getting it back is a nightmare. One guy called me yesterday who had ads running. I won't tell you the specific company, but I will tell you he stole our name, Broker Growth, truncated it a little bit, and is using it for his own, nefarious purposes to push out a product which is objectively horseshit. So, and I've had more compliance issues with that particular guy than anybody else in over 2 decades. Like it's kind of out of control. I've reviewed every single ad he's ever done, and half of them don't work. 100% of them are non-compliant. It's a real problem. It's a real problem when people promote broadly to the industry and then push out a product which is a real turd, particularly when it's non-compliant, because a marketing company should never introduce non-compliance to a broker. They should never compromise a business's ability to actually do business. You go to these people expecting leads, and the net effect of that much of the time is you lose accreditation. Sometimes you have your credit rep status compromised, and some cases, certainly recently, you'll have your ACL challenged. It's a bigger problem now than it ever has been in the past. But this guy called me yesterday morning at 9 a.m. Never met him before, didn't know who he was. And he said, look, I've got this problem. I'm going to go and see a lender at 2 p.m. this afternoon. Have you got any advice for me? He's in one of our Facebook groups. And I said, mate, I said, look, you're going to go and you're going to talk to somebody that has no authority. And they're just going to repeat the message I've already given you. The first thing you need to do is go and get legal representation and challenge it on paper before you sit down with them. Give them reason to consider your appeal, because they just don't appeal this stuff. You have to have a funny and special relationship in order to action that. Now, as it turns out, the relationship manager he was meeting, and relationship managers have no authority in this regard, the RM he was meeting was a friend of mine. So I said, listen, mate, I'm going to be in the city anyhow, so I timed my meeting to coincide with his visit in the city. And I said, I'll meet you there. I caught a train out. He jumped on a Strathfield station, met me on the train. We chatted all the way through to the office. The bit I left out is I called the RM and said, listen, mate, I'm coming in with him just for support. But instead of meeting at the office, which is intimidating, it's a boardroom, you've got to sign in. It's just an environment that's not conducive to your mental health, basically. I said, let's meet at the Piedmont Hotel, which is about 15 minutes from where he is, maybe a 10-minute walk. So he said, yeah, no worries. Like, he's been one of my mates for, probably 20 years. And we met there, 2 beers in. I said, what are we going to do about this issue, this accreditation issue? And I said, before you answer, I said, I'll put him on our CARE program, which is compliance and regulatory education. It's a program we give to guys as part of ISO accreditation and standards enforcement. So if people want to get green ticks for approval and whatever else, it's a program we can put people on to develop them to a certain standard if they're not there already. He'd never heard of it, his lender had never heard of it, but he was happy with the premise. He jumped on the phone, walked away, jumped on the phone, called a couple of people, came back to the table and said, your accreditation is active again as of right now. And that was on the basis of, there's no paperwork involved. I said no emails, I have done since. But it was just on the basis of that CARE program, which is not an industry program I promote. It's only something we offer people that require it. So that's that, and this is the problem with non-compliant advertising, is it will cause you problems. There's somebody out there that is, I'm going to have to press pause for a couple of seconds because I've just arrived somewhere. I'll come back. So there we go, back. Just met up with someone who briefly, gave him a flash drive, and that's that. As I was saying, everybody is a potential target. It doesn't matter how experienced you are, how long you've been in business, how compliant you've been up until now, or how compliant the rest of your business might be. If you present in an unethical or deceptive and defiant manner to a customer, there's a really good argument that you should be prosecuted. If you're not doing the right thing and you're deceptive in any way, I'm coming up against an enormous amount of traffic here, so I'm going to do like a dodgy, illegal U-turn, which is never a good thing. There we go. Giddy up. If there are any police watching this, then I guess they'd have to. It's an interesting question. Could you send someone in infringement on the basis of not knowing what vehicle they're in? I used to be a police officer, I should know that. Anyhow, so whose side am I on? Okay, I guess it's balanced. I'm on the broker side and the consumer side. If I do what's right by the consumer, our focus should be on the consumer, providing them with the best experience, best education, best entertainment in a compliant and ethical manner. So if I do that for a broker, the compliance takes care of itself, right? Because I will never present an experience to a broker that is anything less than 100% compliant, or at least perceived 100% compliant. We do send it via our legal team if we need to, but certainly 100% of everything that any broker does comes before me, and I run through a checklist. There are 15 items of compliance that are required in any piece of financial marketing legislation. Now, there is a regulatory guide that tells you what 9 of them are. RG 234. Easy to remember consecutive numbers. It's like the idiot's guide to finance marketing, dummy's guide to finance marketing. And I don't say that in a derogatory sense, because those dummy guides are excellent. It's a comprehensive and compressed PDF with all that information stacked in, or about 100 pages. And there's a number of regulatory guides on the periphery that provide additional support. However, the only way you're going to understand your obligations if you run advertising yourself is to read the advertising top to bottom, call me, and then get our checklist, which I'll give to you. And on that note, by the way, I've always said I encourage those people, certainly on a rescue package, to call me and get our compliance package. We built it for the digital industry. We built it for people to use, and it's a more comprehensive. It's got examples, and it's got the specifics you need in certain types of ads, and when presented on Google, on TV, on radio, on Facebook, on any type of meta ad, Instagram, whatever. And in the entire time we've had the rescue package, only one business has ever called me, and strangely enough, I got talking to them. Their results have improved. We pulled them off the rescue package because we couldn't return 3 times. So, and they recognised their mistake, which was another thing. And they're not a company that was promoting directly to mortgage brokers. It just so happened that they worked with mortgage brokers almost accidentally. But I can tell you, there are companies that are blatantly non-compliant, and a lot of brokers use, particularly in Victoria, like King Kong, who are, a good company. We don't claim to triple their results all the time. In fact, it's too marginal. We only ever triple their results, which is razor thin. If we were to offer a 3-time guarantee, we'd have to put in too much effort into multiplying their returns, the brokers' returns. But their ads are blatantly non-compliant, right? Blatantly so. And it's a little bit problematic. So, we as an industry, and I say this all the time, we as an industry need to hold ourselves to a higher standard, and a higher standard than that of which the banks were subscribing to. Why? Because there's more of us. Right? We're more likely to be caught out, and a small number of brokers can cause a much bigger problem. You only need a small cancer to contaminate the entire ecosystem, which has happened recently. Now, many of you know I put together a documentary called FinSpan. An injunction was issued against me. I wasn't allowed to show it, and it caused financial problems, so I've held on to it. I will be showing it publicly very shortly, and I'll be showing that in contravention of a court order, which is problematic. However, the nature of the infraction or the illegal activity is now publicly known. I tried to disclose certain types of information, as many of you are aware, to an aggregator back in 2022, and then again in writing in 2023, and told them specifically who was responsible for committing frauds in Bengal, in India, in New Delhi and Bangladesh, and other parts of the world, particularly the Philippines, who had actors in Australia that were stealing identities and swapping over SIM cards and doing all sorts of stuff. That's the information I wasn't allowed to discuss. The reason the judge issued the injunction is because of the potential damage that my material could do to the finance industry. My response to that is very clear. These, dickheads have been caught out now, and whether you know it or not, or like it or not, we're now fighting a battle for a redemption of confidence, because people are losing confidence in what brokers do after $4.5 billion worth of dodgy deals that was identified by a small number of lenders. And the problem is much bigger than that. And I know that because I know the dodgy people that are involved. In fact, I spoke with a guy from an aggregator yesterday, general manager, I won't tell you who it was, but I spoke to a CEO yesterday morning, midday I guess, yesterday morning or the day before. I really do have my days mixed up. And I had this same discussion with all of them. Now, the discussion I had with the GM, probably one of the top 3 or 4 aggregators, I guess. Certainly in terms of volume, they do better than anyone else, and they're the only aggregator I'd ever worked for. Well, I say that, there might be others, but certainly they're the only one that I've ever wanted to work for. And their general manager, I think, was a little bit blown away by what I was saying, in that I think management and executive level individuals within these aggregation groups are shielded from a large amount, a huge portion of the incompetence that plagues the industry at the moment is a real problem. A lot of it is, let's say, partially demographic, but certainly a cultural problem in many respects, where there are some nationalities that are overrepresented in a large amount of the fraud being conducted, and certainly a lot of it originates from India. In fact, one of the brokers, here's a problem. One of the brokers that works happily in Sydney owns a scam call centre, has a share in a scam call centre in Bengal. This guy operates freely. Are we to assume that, like, it's such a big problem? So my point is, we operate in an amazing industry, and no broker, like, volume is not your problem. Volume should never be a problem. There is more volume, mortgage volume on in this country than you could possibly know what to do with. So every business has a capacity to scale. What is problematic for most operations is the ability to scale through appropriate systems and maybe management use of AI. So volume, guys, is not your problem. I hate hearing people I want more business. I always tell them to do something with me. I say, come out with me this afternoon, come out tomorrow, and they never do. And it's because I can pick up more volume in a day organically than some of these guys can do in 8 weeks. And you just have to be exposed to these methods and understand what to do. In fact, one guy recently, I went out, well, this is not recent, 6 months ago, I went to a real estate agent, and this real estate agent was rebranding this broker, knew a few languages and everything else, and he said, come back in a couple of weeks. Right? I met up with the same real estate agent yesterday, and he asked me, when am I going to come back with this broker? I said, I got someone else for you. I don't know what the other guy's doing. I don't know where he is. He turned into a ghost. So put another guy in his place. He said, I get deals every day for mortgages. Everybody wants to talk to a mortgage broker, and I've got no one on staff. And this guy was genuinely struggling to support his business and required somebody there in the office every single day. So as of 1:30, I guess, this afternoon, he's got a guy starting literally tomorrow. Anyhow, that's beside the point. The point is, okay, volume is not our problem. Systems are. It's an amazing industry. You can do amazing good for borrowers. You can save them enormous amounts of money, which I love to see. It's such a rewarding industry in that respect, and you get to make a living on the back end. And the more people you pump through your operation, the more people you help, and the more money you will personally make. The more people you're able to actively employ in your organisation. Like, the mortgage industry is just so easy to manage and scale at the moment. However, as an industry, it seems like we're doing everything we can to erode that trust that people have in us. And we haven't had a good record. Our record since the BRC has not been particularly fantastic, and it seems like one scandal after another, and it's not just compliance and fraud that causes a problem. There are other impending threats, and one of those is AI. So we're competing against AI, yet and we complain about AI's ability to perform functions when objectively it's better at most tasks than we are. We always lean on that. People will always want to talk to a human, in the same way that people always wanted to pick VHS cassettes off a shelf in Blockbuster. The same way that people would always want the flexibility of film, of Kodak film, in the same way that all these industries that have gone bust. So we're competing against technology, and we're fighting for self-preservation, while at the same time we're kind of doing as much as we can to destroy consumer confidence. So why then, coming back to the point, why then do I review Facebook ads? Because we're non-compliant as hell. As an industry, we are non-compliant as hell, and it irritates the shit out of me, because we're deceiving the industry, we're deceiving consumers, we're deceptive, we're providing deception funnels, we're deliberately ignoring very clear and specific legislation that requires us to operate in a very specific manner. Like the fraud, and you have to call it fraud when any kind of action is deliberate. It's criminal. Brokers are intentionally doing this because they want to improve upon their lead flow. But they don't understand you can do that more effectively by actually creating an experience that resonates with the consumers you're trying to attract. So put a good marketing experience into place, and you get the right people through your funnel. Develop them effectively and put the appropriate measures in place to escalate them through that funnel, and they'll be knocking down your door. They'll be barging down your door wanting to talk to you. At the moment, we kind of put these super simple systems in place, and it's all Facebook based. We go, that lead wasn't great. What effort did you make? I don't know. The whole thing irritates me a little bit at the moment. I'm looking forward to getting together with Blake, with the GM of that aggregator soon. I told him we'd meet, after hours on a Friday afternoon, so we can sit down and sort of have an informal discussion where I can reveal the truths of what I know without being impeded by the rigid framework of the 9-to-5 environment. So that's that, guys. I do the Facebook reviews for educational purposes. Now, if you ever want them removed, you got a good reason, just call me. I get cease and desists every month without fail, and in each case I send them back the same message and say I'll see you in court. That's not the right way to approach me, because I'm never wrong. Never wrong. I'm always right. I'm 100% right 70% of the time. Look, if you've broken the law, you don't want to introduce that in the courtroom environment, because that's gold for me. I get to expose malfeasance in a courtroom environment on record, and brokers will never do that, because they'll end up at the end of the day losing their business accreditations or whatever else. So if you want me to remove it, just call me and ask me. In most cases I won't, because it's not designed with a malicious intent. It's designed to educate you. And the one last thing is, if I have reviewed that and you're not compliant, you sure as shit better make the improvements, or update your funnel, or make your ads compliant, because the subtle nastiness, I know I get passionate about it sometimes, but the subtle nastiness that might rub off in my critique is nothing compared to the wrath of ASIC. Preserve your business, do the right thing. I'm going to talk more about this later. Bye, guys.